What's crack-a-lackin', my peoples, how you doing? I'm Jerry Quickly, and this is happening. So much going on out in the world. We're going to try to get to a lot of it today. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving Day extended weekend if you were lucky enough to have one. Oh my God, my aunt killed it with the sweet potato pies this year. Murdered it, Aunt Rose. I'm so happy you're joining us today. We're going to jump into what's happening with the Trump administration, what's happening at the San Ysidro border crossing near Tijuana, and we're also going to be talking about crazy-ass, desperate, genocidal missionaries and the harm they have done to the world in the last 800 years. As one of their ilk was killed on the North Sentinel Islands in the Andaman area of India. Wow, missionaries are scum. Missionaries are the worst scum imaginable in the history of the world. If you were ever anyone in the world who wasn't a wealthy white European and you saw missionaries arrive on your shore, it's over. Because the missionaries bring pestilence, disease, rape, pillaging, murder, extraction of resources, killing off of livestock and ecological catastrophes and disasters, kidnapping, enslavement, and all in the name of the goddamn church. Mercenaries are the same as missionaries, and they're both scum. They are soldiers who fight for money. Not for a cause, not for individuals, not to help. They're scum who commit genocide for money. That's what missionaries are. And that's exactly what that missionary was doing in North Sentinel Island, risking the lives of the indigenous there with his disease-filled body that they had no immunity to. Oh, God. All that and more. But first up, you know how we do. Let's get it cracking. And we're also going to be doing an interview with Mr. Iranio Mujica. He's an activist and human rights defender. He's currently in Mexico right now. We're going to talk about what's going on the border, be taking your calls, all that and more. But first up, you know how we do. Let's get it cracking. What's going on? What's crack-a-lackin', my peoples, how you doing? I'm Jerry Quickly, and this is happening. Joining us on the phone from Mexico right now is Iranio Mujica. He is an activist and human rights defender currently working for Pueblos Sin Fronteras, a non-profit immigration rights group. In solidarity with displaced peoples, they accompany migrants and refugees at times in their journey of hope and together demand for human rights. Pueblos Sin Fronteras provides humanitarian aid and legal advice to migrants and refugees. And my guest, Iranio Mujica, is known for organizing several high-profile migrant caravans in Mexico and Central America, and earlier this month was arrested by Mexican authorities. Iranio Mujica, how are you? Welcome to This Is Happening.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Just for background and perspective, so that our listeners have some understanding of the history and context of these caravans, can you tell our audience what are some of the driving forces politically, economically, or criminally? What are the reasons that a group of poor, disenfranchised people who can't afford to barely feed themselves, why are they choosing to join a caravan and make their way to the United States? I think the circumstances of their existence in their home countries is largely hidden from sight from the American people. Why are so many thousands of people joining these caravans, Mr. Mujica?
Mostly it's a lot of the violence in their country. As far as I know, I live in Mexico and in the United States sometimes, but I have a dual citizenship. But what I can tell you is when they get to Mexico, that's where we work as a human rights organization. But basically what we understand, and when talking to them and working for years with them, is the violence in their country, especially against, organized groups like Maras or other groups that are prey on them when they are doing, either they have some kind of business, or whether they live and they have a family in the United States, or it just becomes unbearable sometimes, either because you have kids and they want your kids to join them, or because they want you to work for them, and none of them really. The violence is a number one factor that is driving this. When your kids are in a sense in danger, then you have to flee, no matter how much valuables you have. These people lost everything by coming to this caravan. But this caravan started, like I said, I believe with 100 people, 200, and then with a lot of the news and media and buzz, and everybody got known as the people started walking and just got pouring out of the country, and they become all this mess now in Mexico, and rightfully, I don't know what to say. That's probably the number one factor, and also this time of year is when you have less work, because sometimes factories close and all of that, and it was becoming worse and worse. And the government is being real repressive against its own people. And government that was actually they supposedly did not win, but was put there as someone that can work well with us, with the United States.
Now, Mr. Mujica, I understand that, of course, there is horrific violence that are visited frequently upon these caravan members, as many as 60% of female members of the caravan are sexually assaulted at some point in their journey, and they are predated upon by authorities. The entire caravan is predated upon by gangs. And in addition to all of that hardship and liability that the caravan members are going through, there is a new type of targeting that's happening, where members of the caravan that have given media interviews have been disappeared, and it is alleged that they have been killed or murdered. And in addition to actual caravan members who gave media interviews being disappeared and possibly murdered, there are human rights workers and activists, even folks like yourself who are American citizens, and the threats are beginning to compile against you folks as well. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that, Mr. Mujica?
Mostly it's a campaign of fear, that disinformation, trying to push people to either to go back or to spread out. And a lot of that campaign of fear, it's in the media. Like, they call me, I don't know how many times, saying they're going to kill me, or that they're going to hand me on the next post, or coming from, especially sometimes from the United States. That's what most of the hate callings and saying a lot of the stuff is coming from. And also from Mexico, some people, they pretend to be, or they say they are from organized crime, and that they're going to kill three of us, they're going to hang us from the thing, from the bridges and stuff. It's a lot of, it's a fear that it's trying to make these people either disappear or go away or whatever, as long as they go. And other than that, factors that we have people that really have disappeared. And it's like how do you say, their fear sometimes believes anything that anybody says, but a lot of times when someone gets kidnapped, you have a person that is being kidnapped. Sometimes they say they disappear because either the INS took them and sent them back fast, or because the police got them and they disappeared. But when you have someone that has disappeared, and I'm not saying there's no kidnappings here. There is a lot of kidnappings in Mexico. That a lot of the times it's mostly gossip. It's things that are fear that is being used to have these people like go away or go back to their country, or try to use the fear to break their will to go to the whatever they're going to do, either work here in Mexico or to go into the United States or to claim asylum or other things. Yeah, I would be lying to you if I said I know a case that a person did disappear, that the crime. There is a lot of violence in this city. You know, there's like 15 murders. There is almost a day, and there is like over 2,000 people have already died. Sometimes in the year. So there is a lot of violence, but according to, there's always so much police around these people that I really doubt that the people are just picking up people like aliens, some type of idea, and just taking them and killing them for no reason at all, just for hate. I think mostly sometimes they are being killed. People that are being killed is mostly Mexican. There has been 3 or 4 shootings around the area, but mostly is around Mexicans killing themselves because of their violence. The place where they put this camp is probably the worst place they could have put it. They put it right next to the fence. Literally, when you get up,
in Tijuana, where the migrants are now housed.
After coming miles and miles and countries and trying to get here, they put this thing right next to the thing, the fence of the United States, and really within a block or two you can get to the port of entry. And the people in Tijuana saying, look, the migrants are bad. I want money. I want money to take care of them or send them back. I want money. I want money. That's what the Mexicali government usually says. He doesn't want to be responsible. And the other states have been pushing the migrants out of the state, no matter with buses, putting buses, sending them out of their states to be out of the problem. So it is unfortunate that these people, that their misery has been used as it is right now.
They're kind of trapped between all the governments.
Solution that they can actually address their needs.
Right. I want to remind our listeners that my guest is Iranio Mujica. He is an activist and human rights defender. He holds dual citizenship in the United States and Mexico. He's currently working for Pueblos Sin Fronteras, a nonprofit and immigration rights group in solidarity with displaced peoples. They accompany migrants and refugees in their journey of hope and together demand for human rights. Pueblos Sin Fronteras provides humanitarian and legal advice to humanitarian aid and legal advice to migrants and refugees. And Mr. Mujica is known for organizing several high-profile migrant caravans in Mexico and Central America. Mr. Mujica, it seems that all of the footage that has been running on U.S. and Mexican television for the last few days, the conflict happening at the border crossing in San Isidro, is entirely 100% driven by Donald Trump's complete refusal to essentially abide by the laws of the world and the United States. Donald Trump has essentially illegally suspended the United States asylum laws in an effort to punish brown people that he doesn't want here. All of these clashes and skirmishes at the border that have happened for the last couple days with a handful of protesters, 500 protesters, is driven by Donald Trump's white supremacist policy of refusing to allow the United States to follow its asylum laws. And you're right, it seems very much as though the migrants in the caravan are the victim, with the Mexican government, the current government saying, "Oh, it's not our fault. We're going to leave it for Obrador," and AMLO's government saying, "Hey, these Peña Nieto should have dealt with this," and the migrants are trapped in the middle and they're being gassed, and it couldn't be more unsafe to be gassing infants and children in diapers. How does this situation resolve itself in the absence of the United States following its own laws about asylum?
That's one of the problems. That's what I'm saying. It's like either the government trying to force them to go into this either to stay in Mexico, that they don't really want to stay in Mexico, so they put just a little drip where no one gets anywhere with it, or the American government, where it just shuts down, like you said, it shuts down the asylum process. One of the protests the way that we were going to the border of San Isidro was to protest pacifically, to have the United States follow its own laws that are international about whoever has in the case of asylum, to let the courts decide, and to be able to address this humanely in a way, but also to follow the law.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons that even the judge said that he was gonna, the judge in California has said that he was gonna allow, or that he could not prohibit people to go enter illegally and not take seriously about their case. And still people are not going into that. They are trying to follow the law. They are trying to go into the place there is. There was, I believe, there was 50 or 60 people. Well, you're talking about 6,000 people that are here, and only a few that don't have any case or they did not have the case try to cross like that. And it is sad that we as human beings are pressuring, are putting people in danger for political reasons. And it is, if I could say someone is number one person being blamed for this, is the tweets. He puts everything in those tweets, and whenever he puts anything on those tweets, the media goes crazy after it. He talks about a caravan that, like, before it was like 200, 300, and it was thousands, because all the media goes crazy and everything, the whole attention goes to it, and it becomes wild. The caravans have been being done for years, and always this has been like 300, 400, and never come to the border. They usually go to Mexico City to try to change the laws in Mexico. Lately, because all the push on Donald Trump on the asylum seekers, we decided with all the migrants, that it was necessary to visualize also the American border, to know about these things. But when we never had, the last ones we came to the United States, it was like 300, like 150, 500. The last one, it was like 400, it was 1,700, but to the border only got close to 400 or less. But he put it on those tweets. He's the one that has been able to push and drives the media mad. I don't know, but definitely, if I would say, if anybody is guilty of driving this, is the United States, and I'm specifically, I'm not saying the United States, but specifically Donald Trump and his tweets, and it's being used to build his wall, a wall that is actually, if this caravan did have an intention to break this, to go to a wall, why go this place? There's a lot of places where there's no wall. There is Sonora. I mean, you go about probably 15 miles out of Tijuana or less, and you have no wall. There's a lot of places where there's no wall. There is nothing. The people are not going there. They are trying. They are waiting in line. There's close to I believe from the caravan, there's over 2,000, 3,000 waiting to have their cases heard in court. And it is irresponsible to use women and children. And I know Donald Trump doesn't see a lot of people in the caravan as human beings. He sees them as animals, but they're not animals. They are people that are fleeing or violence. They have their kids. They worry about what they're going to feed them. They worry about how they are going to survive or die in the hands of people they have in their own country. And it is an international law. And I believe, most of us, like myself, that are Americans, believe that this is not the way to treat another human being.
Mr. Mujica,
to find solutions.
Let me.
We are pressuring a lot Mexico too to take his part, but we should be pressuring also the United States or Donald Trump to at least take its responsibility and have these people hear their cases in court.
Mr. Mujica, let me ask you, before we leave you, before we lose you today, you have chosen a difficult life for yourself. You have chosen a life that I'm sure is deeply rewarding, but it's also deeply challenging as a human rights worker and as an activist and human rights defender and working with Pueblo Sin Fronteras. Can you tell our audience why you are an activist and human rights worker and what drives you to wake up in the morning and help people.
Well, I live in Mexico when I was a kid, and I left to the United States. I understand what these people went through or go through. And a lot of the times, I was living my life in Mexico, but I realized through my father that sometimes, things doesn't go well for people because of the way they look. And a lot of bad things happen sometimes to them, like it did to my father, where it changed my life. And I made a promise when my dad died that I was going to try to help people like him, people that are, he's from Mexico, from an Indian. And I promised God I would try to help people like him, people that do not have sometimes a chance, that do not have sometimes how to defend themselves, and try to make sure that if not, you can make it fair. At least you can make one day better for them.
Right.
And that's what I have done. That's a promise to God. And I don't get paid. We don't get paid for this. We do a lot of our work, and we continue doing our life in a humble way and without much only sometimes things to eat, and that's it. And I really love Mexico. I love the United States, and I love the people also. These are people that are working. They are trying to find a work. They are trying to find a family, just like my family did when I was a young kid. And I can understand their pain. And through years, I've been hearing the stories. For years, I've been seeing the suffering, and to live in my soul is marked by those things. And I believe a lot of the stuff. I know God is trying to help through a lot of the hands, and then I believe sometimes God help us. Always, God help us with His people, and He doesn't want these things for any human being. I don't want these things for any human being. And I believe also the solution is not that everybody comes to the United States, but we can do something about it. The United States has power to make sure that these people find their own work in their countries. And when this crisis like this is, to confront it in the right way and to be in a humane way. Mexico's trying to do its part, and hate doesn't go anywhere.
Ireneo Mujica, activist, human rights defender from Pueblos Sin Fronteras. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for the work you're doing. I feel rather certain your father's proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take a really super short break, and when we come back, we'll be taking your calls at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. I'm Jerry Quickly. This is happening, and we want to encourage you to follow us online. You can go to YouTube, just search for Jerry Quickly, and click on subscribe to the channel. We post new videos every day. The video of this show is already up there live now. Check it out. You can also follow us online by going to SoundCloud.com/TIH Live. Again, that's SoundCloud.com/TIH Live. And if you'll follow me online, you can use the handle at Jerry Quickly on Twitter. Again, that's at Jerry Quickly on Twitter. That's it. You're going to take a really super short break and be right back taking your calls at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Help me to pilot this ship through this swamp, y'all. What's going on? What's crack-a-lackin', my peoples? Welcome back to the show. I'm Jerry Quickly, and this is happening. Well, we're going to jump right into it after that interview with Ireneo Mujica. Wow. My heart just goes out to those people on the border, and I can't believe that we are now, based on Trump's vision of white supremacy, we're gassing women and babies on the U.S. southern border. First, we were kidnapping them. Now we're gassing them. But it doesn't stop there. This gives rise to open white supremacists and open white nationalists saying that not only is this a good thing, it's a non-event. Let's give a listen to the racist known as Steve Doocy on Fox, talking to the racist known as Ronald Colburn. He's a complete full-blown racist who started you'll hear it. You'll hear his racism in this comment. He started a completely racist organization called the Border Patrol Foundation, supposedly for about fallen Border Patrol officers. No, he's just standing on the corpses of Border Patrol officers to plant his flag of white supremacy. And in this clip, again, this is Steve Doocy on Fox News talking to Ronald Colburn, the director of the Racist Border Patrol Foundation, talking about how tear gas is not so bad. It's not bad for kids. You can use it on your nachos.
There was a small hole they were able to puncture through the border wall, and they hurled all sorts of rocks, etc., at the Border Patrol agents, and then they fired the tear gas. Is that warranted?
Absolutely. And to clarify, the type of deterrent being used is OC pepper spray. It's literally water, pepper, with a small amount of alcohol for evaporation purposes. It's natural. You could actually put it on your nachos and eat it. So it's a good way of deterring people without long-term harm.
Okay, that was a white supremacist, Ronald Colburn, talking about how tear gas is actually, it's not harmful. You could put it on your nacho chips. Okay, that couldn't be further from the truth. We're taking your calls at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Tear gas is deadly for children. Deadly. It can kill them. Okay? If a child ingests an adult-sized dose, if a toddler or baby ingests an adult-sized dose of tear gas, they will require hospitalization for at least a month. And you just had Fox News having an unhinged white supremacist talking about how, it's not so bad. You can put it on your nacho chips. Well, props to Ali Velshi from MSNBC for breaking down exactly how deadly tear gas is, especially for children. It's illegal in war.
Now, things like tear gas, called riot-controlled agents, are prohibited in warfare. Here's the interesting thing. The convention, the Chemical Weapons Convention, doesn't cover domestic use of tear gas. So what are these riot control agents? There are two main types. There's OC gas, which shares the main ingredients in pepper spray. And there's CS gas, which is more commonly known as tear gas. The name is a bit of a misnomer. It's not gas at all. It's actually an aerosol, which sends droplets into the air surrounding areas where it lands. Now, CS, when it comes into contact with the wet surfaces of a person's eyes, their mouth, the inside of their nose, skin if it's wet, breathing passages, it irritates the body's defenses, which then kick into high gear trying to flush out the material. So again, that's why it's worse if you're in a panic and you're breathing in heavily. The result is that heavy streams of tears, mucus, and saliva work to clear the body of these droplets. And as the exposed person coughs or chokes on the spray, they retch up fluids. Eyelids snap shut, by the way, in response to severe burning. Even temporary blindness can occur. Now, when used properly, like in open spaces, for instance, tear gas and pepper spray temporarily disable a person, but getting outdoors can clear most of the symptoms within about an hour. The burning eyes and skin and disorientation have been reported to last longer, however. But tear gas has been known to be deadly when used against people in enclosed spaces, like in cars or vans or homes or areas that are not well ventilated. And while an adult could survive CS gas that's fired into a home, let's say to subdue a disturbed person, a 1989 article in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that if an infant were present at the same place, they would suffer inflammation of breathing passages requiring at least a month of hospitalization and significant therapy. So it's uniquely different when children are involved. I understand that there are people who understand that there's a reason to use it for crowd control, but this is why it's difficult when there are children involved.
No, I don't accept that there's a reason to use it for crowd control. If it literally has been outlawed on the battlefield as too heinous to use against armed soldiers, it is absolutely too heinous to use against unarmed populations of civilians. We're gassing children on the southern border in the name of white supremacy. Repeat for emphasis. We are gassing children on the southern border in the name of white supremacy. And the reason we're doing this in the name of white supremacy is because if the southern border had 500 or 600 or 5,000 or 6,000 Swedes or Finns or Norwegians, okay, if you had any of those Ouijies or Finns or Swedes there, we wouldn't be gassing 3-year-old children that are Swedish. Why? Because they're white. But if you're not white and you're an infant, we will gas you in your goddamn face. F your mother. That's America. Welcome to Trumplandia. He cannot be allowed to stay in office. This racist maniac must be removed from office. And why is this happening on the southern border? Because Donald Trump has decided to unilaterally, illegally suspend United States immigration and asylum laws, which say that anyone can present themselves in America and request asylum. And he's decided, no, I don't want them requesting asylum. So I'm going to gas their goddamn babies. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let me see. First up, let's talk to Carlos calling from Carson. Carlos, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Yes, well, listen, I was in Tijuana today, and I tell you, it's having a severe economic impact. Business is down 60%. When I was traveling to Tijuana today, there were hardly any cars going into Mexico. Aside from the economic impact, I talked to many Mexicans out there. None of them want the Caribbeans there. None of them want them, okay? Now, besides that, if these people want to seek asylum, they rush the border. That's not an orderly way of seeking asylum. Come on, they rush the border. If you see dozens of people coming at you, let's say you're a border guard, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, my friend? Put yourself in their place. Don't be a hypocrite.
Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate hearing from you. We're taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to Bob calling from Gardena. Bob, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Yeah, Jerry, there's a lot of so-called Mexicans who think that way. I wanted to stay with the topic.
Wait, I got to stop you. So-called Mexicans. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know his colors, so I can't. His accent, I can kind of guess. But so-called Mexicans are people who you think might be dark, but they don't talk like they would be dark. And that's kind of the topic I wanted to kind of quickly get into.
Okay. What's your comment?
How people look. And I have a Spanish surname myself, but if because of American culture, they would see me as mixed race, mulatto, non-white, the outsider. And I have a lot of so-called white relatives, and the Spanish influence, the white European influence, they would claim, and so darkness is an issue in the so-called Latino race, and the ideologies of how they can be Trumpites is basically they're white and brown, mulatto, black Latinos, and you have to really not judge them based on the word Latino, because it's a very nebulous term, and see them as in their interests of how they identify themselves racially. If they identify themselves racially as white, then they're going to be a triplet, or they're going to vote white, or they're going to be conservative usually. I'm not making absolute statements, but I happen to be dark, so I can be a radical, a free-thinking radical, because of my color and how I've been treated in the American culture all my life, and how my white relatives have been treated. So I kind of have a first row seat on a lot of that, and basically Trumpites are the Trumpite zeitgeist allows people to be Latino and Trumpites at the same time.
You know what's crazy to me about, like, folks, it doesn't matter if they're, Latino, Latinx, of Asian descent, of African American descent. It's shocking to me that any person of color would vote for Trump. I understand of self-interest, like, oh, I happen to be one of the 8 wealthy black people in the country, and I don't want to give a dime away in taxes. But it's insane to me that they think that they are in a protected group or status, and there will never come a point when Trump comes after them. Because when Trump's through dealing with the hippie, tragic mulattoes like me, he's moving right on to the conservatives. The problem is you're not white. You're going down in Trump land. You may have a little more time left on your fuse before they come to get you. But if you're not white, you will be incarcerated. You will be thrown out of America, or you will be made to operate in some way of servitude. You will be a supplicant in his land at best. You will not be a full-fledged citizen. You will not have rights to vote, and you have nothing to say about whatever anyone takes from you because you're not white.
You've been brainwashed as a consumer person, and that's how some people identify more than their own color. So yeah. I believe, in my experience, that's what's happened.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate hearing from you. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to John calling from Eagle Rock. John, welcome to the show with Stelio.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit when you're going off about that guy that died in the Andaman Islands?
Okay, let me first give a little background for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with it. A man named Chow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
This is for the listeners, people who may not be familiar. I'm just going to give a brief summary. There was a Christian missionary named Chow who was sent by an organization, a Christian missionary organization, who knew of his movements and knew he was planning to do this. And he went to North Sentinel Island near the country of India. It is illegal for anyone to go there. It is the last Neolithic tribe in existence on Earth. They've had virtually no contact with the outside world. When I say virtually no contact, I mean literally virtually no contact whatsoever in thousands of years. As a result, they don't have the same immune systems that we have. The fact is that missionary's presence on the island represented, every moment he was there, represented a genocidal threat to the existence of that tribe of people, and his presence threatened to wipe them off the face of the earth. So what they did was, first they warned him. They sent some kids out to say, hey, get away from here. Don't be around. And then one of the kids actually shot at him with an arrow. But these kids, they know exactly what they're doing. They're proficient hunters. And this kid, what did the kid shoot with an arrow? He shot Chow's Bible. Okay? He literally put an arrow into his Bible because Chow's talking about, I have fish for you, and Jesus loves you, and Jesus loves you, and take my disease. And the reason it was so horrifically offensive is because Chow thought, well, this is just fine. I need to get extra special close to Jesus. I need to be Jesus's right hand. So if I bring Christianity to the one place on earth that has never had it, never heard of it, that's going to give me big props in Jesus' world. And it doesn't matter if these people die from the pestilence I carry. It doesn't matter. What matters is I have a higher status in heaven. That man was scum. He deserved his death. And the reason he deserved his death is because he literally threatened genocide with his presence against people who did nothing to him but exist. He's a problem. He's the problem. He's a problem. Sorry. So anyway, that's the background. What's your comment?
Really hard to follow up on that, but
do you understand that? You understand the way immune systems work? His presence was a genocidal threat.
Gary, I don't disagree with you. In this specific case, you have, you're putting it in no,
I'll be greater than that. It's not this specific case. All missionaries are scum. The reason that
so tell me, how do you define, just very briefly, how do you define missionaries?
Anyone who goes out into the world working for Christian organizations seeking to convert indigenous people to Christianity.
Well, Jerry, you've forbidden the primary.
I've forbidden white supremacy, colonialism, and genocide.
Let me finish my sentence, or
I'll hang up on you. How about that? Taking your calls here at 818-985. You can go now. You can yell at your mom because you don't get to yell at me. 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's talk to Ken calling from South Pasadena. Ken, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?